Thank you for attending this webinar, the third in our Awaken Your Potential Leadership series, 10 Ways to Unlock Greatness. I'm your moderator, Jenny Alton from the New York Small Business Development Center Central Office. Today, our topics are Make Your Purpose Bigger Than Your Problem and Give More Than You Take. Your presenter is Chad Reyes, author and renowned coach of Lions Pride Leadership. This webinar is brought to you by the New York Small Business Development Center network of 20 campus-based centers and many more outreach offices located across New York State, along with a central office based in Albany. The NYSBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner. Our free advising, education, research, and advocacy services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. So you know we are recording today. We will share a link to this recording with attendees in the next few days in a follow-up email. Attendees are muted and will not be on camera. Your chats will only be visible to me, our presenter, Chad, and our behind-the-scenes helpers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A box as they come up. You can open Zoom's Q&A box from the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will likely save most questions for a Q&A session at the end of the presentation to make sure that Chad can get through all of his material today. And with that, I will turn the time over to Chad.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm so excited to be with the SBDC family. Again, I know it's been exciting. We've been building from week to week, some momentum. And I'm tremendously, as I was sharing with you, Jenny, I'm really excited to share on this topic. I love all the chapters, but as I was writing the book, and each chapter, has a different meaning and the impact it's had on me and certainly the people that will read it. But I'm just excited to share. So we're going to jump on in. Let me go back. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. There you go. So we're going to get started. We're going to jump in now. We're going to throw on a quick little video. I believe Jenny has that.
You have to be awakened that there's more inside of you. You have to be awakened that there's more potential in you. All you need to do is make a decision. This is going to happen. And all of a sudden, things start changing in your life. That's why great commitments precede great achievement. You got to commit to achieve. It's the same thing with athletes. The greatest athletes are able to tap into their mind, to push their mind beyond what their body thinks is possible. Awakening your potential is the key to everything you and I want in our lives. Everything you dreamed of, everything that you say you want, is in you awakening your potential. You have potential, I have potential, and let's awaken ourselves to that potential.
I think that the power of potential is so amazing, because potential means the thing that you have the ability to do, but you haven't yet done. Think about that for a moment. It's the power, it's the ability to do something. You have all the skill and talent to do it, but you haven't yet done it. And today I want to talk to you about two topics. Hold on. Today I want to talk to you about these two topics: giving more than you take and making your purpose bigger than your problem. There's a gentleman, you may have heard of his name. His name is Viktor Frankl. I had read some of Viktor Frankl's work some years back, and I'll share this. I'll preface this with saying that this is purely from a making your purpose bigger than your problem. This is not there's no political position here. There's no nothing there other than this fact that Viktor Frankl, he was born in 1905, and he spent time in one of the worst times, which was the Holocaust. And one of the things is that he was 37 years old when he entered the concentration camps. And he was in 3 of the 4 camps. And one of the things that was really impactful is he lost almost all of his family members. And the thing about his life that is so powerful is he wound up speaking on something called logotherapy. And what it really is, and it's perfect for what we're going to talk about, making your purpose bigger than your problem. He spoke about how the thing that he recognized was the people that were in the camp that lost hope and couldn't see their purpose. It became so much more difficult. Now, I don't know about you, but I know what that feeling felt like, not the camp, but I know what it felt like when I was younger to not know what I wanted to do, to be distracted, to not be clear on your purpose. And what happened is the problems got bigger. And the thing that I loved about Viktor Frankl is he spent his entire life helping people understand the power of meaning and purpose. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. I read it some years back. I'd encourage you. It's a great book. From a leadership perspective, and I'm talking about it purely from a leadership perspective, is all of us have dreams. I'm sure you have dreams. I've had dreams. We have visions, and we have a purpose that we want to fulfill. And our ability to do that is the ability for us to stay focused on it and to refine it and to get clear on it. So today I'm gonna be sharing with you a lot about this whole make your purpose bigger than your problem. As I jump into it, I want you to look at it through this lens, okay? You have the problem, and I don't know about you, but I know when I was younger, the problems, they seemed to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because I didn't know how to put it in context. I didn't know how to make sure that I didn't make the problem consume my purpose. And this is what, this may not be you, but I could tell you that when I speak to leaders, no matter where I go, I could be in Canada, I could be in other countries, I can be locally, I could be in New York State. I hear these things from leaders that a lot of times the problem gets so big that it literally covers their purpose. They can't even see their purpose through the problem. Now think about that. Look what I just did. That problem got so big that it literally covered their purpose. And I see that all the time when it comes to leaders. And I want to share a message with you today that really says this. Let's flip it. Let's make our purpose so big that when the problem happens, you could always see your purpose through the problem. Now, I know I'm speaking to someone on this call today that's saying like, wow, I'm going through something right now and I'm struggling. As leaders, as moms and dads, as family members, as siblings, we can't avoid problems. But what we can do is take problems and give it a good context, and be able to really understand how to make our purpose bigger than the problem. And that's the reason why I wrote the chapter, because if you go back and you listen to what I shared on our first session, I shared with you how I got to where I was and you know, my house being foreclosed on and me filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy at 21 years old. I shared all of that. And at that time, I was making the problem become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This is what my life looked like. I'm speaking purely from experience here. The problem got bigger and bigger that at one point at 22 years old, I'm like, I can't see what the future would ever look like. And then one day, I understood this concept of making your purpose bigger than your problem, and it gave everything perspective. So I want to share with you some things that I think can be really helpful as a leader, because when you're able to put these things in context, it'll allow you to make your purpose bigger than your problem. So I'm going to give you 7 things, 7 steps to making your purpose bigger than your problem. So are you ready for this one? Let's do it. Let's jump in. Here's the first one. Identify your giftedness. The reason why giftedness is so key is that the thing you'll find the most fulfillment in is in the area that you are gifted. I say this to leaders all the time, that if you have an above average skill set and you're passionate in that area and you commit to refining the skill set, One day you can make a difference in so many people's lives. You'll make more money. You'll be more fulfilled. And one of the things about making your purpose bigger than your problem is that you have to find your giftedness. You have to find the thing that makes you who you are. And as leaders, when I'm working with organizations, we talk about building gifted organizations. We talk about how important giftedness is to the success of the individual, but also to the success of the company. And when we do that and we're able to identify it, it makes all the difference in the world. And you know, we have a leadership assessment that we use. We call it our giftedness assessment. I'd encourage you, you can go on chadreyes.com and check it out, but on the book resources. But giftedness is so key because it has three things. It has mission, competency, and style. Mission, in an area of giftedness, you're going to be motivated. You're going to be good. Competency, that's the competency side. And other people are going to see that you're good at it. So that's one way to make your purpose bigger than your problem, because what'll happen is if you're going through, if as a business owner or a leader, you're struggling for whatever reason, whether it be health or whether it be finances or whether it be family dynamics or business dynamics, when you're able to be clear on the purpose, your giftedness will help you get through the problem so that you can get to the other side of breakthrough. So that's the first thing. Let's jump to the second step. The second step is identify what you're willing to sacrifice. Why is that so key? Because if you're going to make your purpose bigger than your problem, it's going to require a sacrifice. I'll just share with you. I remember years ago, my wife and I, we moved in with my mother-in-law. This is 2012. We moved in with my mother-in-law. We were living in a beautiful luxury skyrise. Gorgeous. And what we did was we made a decision that we were going to leave one of the companies that we were working with because long-term, it just didn't fit where we wanted to go. We wanted to create an independent model, which we have today. So we had all these, it was in the life insurance business at the time, and we had all these renewals. And we had to walk away from 10 years of business, from 2003 to 2012, which is almost 10 years. We had to walk away from 10 years of business. And my wife and I made this decision at that point. We said, we're going to walk away. We're young. We're going to walk away. But we're also going to cut our expenses. So we're no longer going to live in this luxury condo, because that luxury condo was okay at that point. But now losing all of our renewals because we're literally leaving that large insurance company, we had to change lifestyle. That's a sacrifice. I remember, having to sacrifice weekends when friends were partying, and I said, I got to learn and grow. From 23 to 33, I spent 10 years reading a book a week because I knew that at some point that would give me a competitive advantage later on as I got into my late 30s and early 40s. And I see that. Identifying what you're willing to sacrifice is so key, because I will tell you this, that if you do not believe that your future is brighter than your past, then you're not going to sacrifice. People only sacrifice when they're sacrificing for something brighter in the future. That's why making your purpose bigger than your problem is so key, because if your future is not brighter, if your organization is not brighter in the future, you will not sacrifice today. You will never sacrifice for something that you do not believe is better in the future. So I want to encourage you, as we go through this message of making your purpose bigger than your problem, make your future brighter. And part of it's going to require sacrifice. The next one is create a growth plan to develop in your area of giftedness. To make your purpose bigger than your problem, your skill set has to get better. Leaders, unfortunately, a lot of them go off of charisma. A lot of them go off of vision. But great leaders understand that they have to develop a skill set that makes them world class. And I would encourage you as a leader and the people on your team help people develop a growth plan of how they're going to grow. And the reason why that's important is if you don't have, most people think that you will just naturally grow. You don't, as you get older, the only thing that naturally grows is your nose and your ears. Those things, scientifically is proven that your nose and your ears will grow as you continue to get older. But your leadership doesn't grow just naturally. You don't just naturally grow. You actually have to be intentional with how you grow. And I just want to encourage you that where you are and where your teams are, build a growth plan, because that will make your purpose bigger than your problem. Because if your problem is big, but you're clear on what is it that I got to do to develop. I develop my skill set in 3 areas. I think I may have shared this on one of the sessions before, but I develop myself in 3 areas. Typically, it's leadership skills, it's my business entrepreneurial skills, and it's developing myself as a man of God. Those 3 things are the things that I focus on developing myself and building a growth plan around. I'd encourage you to build a growth plan. Encourage your team members to build a growth plan so that you can continue growing to be the leader and reaching your potential, because potential is what you could be. Reality is where I am today and where you are today. So let's jump into the next one. The 4th one, always see the bigger purpose through the problem. You see, the thing that I loved about the story of Viktor Frankl is he was in a dark, challenging time, but he didn't lose hope. My wife, I love her tremendously because she's always the one that nudges me. She's always the one that pushes me to challenge me to become better. And when COVID hit, she said to me, Chad, we're going to continue doing coaching, even if people can't pay us. I said, all right. And then she said, not only that, but we're going to actually figure out how to add more value to everyone around us. So we started doing free webinars at the time, free leadership development trainings at the time for our friends, companies, their networks, helping them work through all the struggles. We're helping them deal with the COVID and the fear that was around it at the time. You see, the purpose was that we would impact millions of leaders. The problem was big, but we made the purpose bigger because we said we're not going to focus on what we don't have control over. We're going to focus on what we do have control over. This here is something that we created on our website. It's inside the book, Awaken Your Potential. I talk about it more in depth, but also on the website, chadreyes.com, there's a document on the book resources that you could go to. And what that'll do is it'll show you what the business model alignment looks like. But basically what business model alignment is, and I talk about this with organizations all the time, it's purpose, vision, values, giftedness, strategy, and metrics. Let me just give that back to you. And there's a document, like I said, on that website. If you want, you could download it and be able to, have it available to you. But it's purpose. Why does the business exist? Vision. Where are we going? Values. What are the values that we're going to hire people by? What are the values that we're going to reward? Giftedness. What is the strengths of the people on the team? Strategy is how do we create intentional game plans of how we're going to get to that vision? And then metrics, how do we keep accountability? Now, the reason why that's so important is if you're clearer, the clearer you are on that, it'll allow you to get through the problem. Because you'll remember, why does this business exist? One of the things I always recognize is when I'm working with business leaders and they focus only on the dollar, as soon as it gets tough, they walk away. Just hear me out for a moment. The second that it gets really hard, and I can promise you one thing that I've learned in 20 years in business, you're gonna have hard times. And the second that it gets hard, they leave because they weren't focused on a bigger purpose than just making a dollar. As business leaders, what is the purpose of your business? Is it to see people have, smiles on their face and enjoy your food? Is it to allow people to literally bring the community together, and the byproduct is that you're very profitable? The clearer you are on your business model alignment, purpose, vision, values, giftedness, strategy, and metrics, the easier it is to stay focused on the purpose and not get wrapped up in the problem. Let me go to the next one. Integrate your team members and business purpose. And your business's purpose. What I mean by that is this. We're living in a world that people can go do and work wherever they like. They can find work across different parts of the world, different parts of the country. How do you take someone's purpose, something that they love doing and they were called to do, and then integrate it with what your business's purpose is, so that they can fulfill their purpose through your purpose? I learned this when Danielle and I first started traveling with John Maxwell. For those of you who don't know John is probably the #1 leadership coach around the world. And Danielle and I are blessed to call him a friend and mentor to us. And the thing that I recognized is that my wife and I are able to fulfill our purpose through John's purpose. So that's a powerful thing, because I didn't have to lose my identity, but I can fulfill what I was supposed to do by working alongside of him and connecting and doing some initiatives together. And as you can tell, he did the forward on my book. I'm helping him with his not-for-profit that we're getting into schools, teaching leadership principles based on values all throughout New York City. And we started in Staten Island. But his purpose and our purpose, we were able to fulfill it through one another's. One of the things about making purpose bigger than the problem is, how do you do that with your team members? That's a question we all have to answer. And let's talk about the last one. Make it a win-win-win. How do we create environments that are win-win-wins? I had a coach years ago said a win-3. And part of that is managing expectations, but part of that is actually caring about the people that you work with, caring about the team members, caring about your clients. One of the things about making purpose bigger than problem is, if you don't care about your team and your clients, then you'll just use them to get what you want. It's so key to create a win-3 or a win-win-win, so that your purpose can be fulfilled through any problem. And the great thing about that is that when we create environments where people win, it changes everything. So I hope that you found this to be valuable. I want to jump into the next part, which is, it's one of the chapters in the book called Give More Than You Take. Now, I don't know about you, but I think you would agree that we're starting to see a lack of values showing up in the workplace. We're starting to see people wanting to take more than they give. I hear it literally. I was just on a call right before this, my wife and I, with a new potential client for our coaching company. And they were telling us how they're struggling through some of that, where people aren't working hard and they're not giving everything. How do you get ahead in life? How does your company get ahead in life? How do you as a leader get ahead in life? I want to just give you a premise, and it's based on a very simple philosophy. There's only 2 types of mindsets in this world. Listen to me, please don't miss this one. There is an abundance mindset, and there is a scarcity mindset. Okay? And what an abundance mindset says is this. An abundance mindset says, I always give more. I give more. I give more to my clients. I give more to the team. I give more to my employer. I give more. I live in a world of abundance where scarcity mindset says there's never enough. They always try to take rather than give. I want to give an example of this because I think it'll be real helpful. Many years ago, I heard this story. It impacted me so much that it was probably 16 years ago, and I'm still sharing the story. The person gave 4 examples, but they were talking about the 4 conditions of exchange. So picture this for a moment. We've all, at some point in our lives, have been to a car wash, right? So picture you take your car and you go to a car wash. And in the car wash, right, you drop off the car and they say, come back in 20 minutes. So you drop off your car, you come back in 20 minutes. And they tell you it's $20. So you give them a $20 bill, or you do your Apple Pay. And you get in your car and you realize that the car is filthy, it's dirty, it actually wasn't even cleaned. But they charged you $20. That is what we call criminal exchange. They literally robbed you. They charged you $20 and they didn't give you any value. Let me give you the next one though. The next one is partial exchange. So you go to a car wash, you give them your car. They say, like, come back in 20 minutes. You come back in 20 minutes, you pay the register, you give them the $20. And you see that the car is clean. There's some dirt marks on the side, but you could tell that they cleaned the car. There's some stuff in the rugs that are still not fully vacuumed up. There's some fingerprints on the window. That's partial exchange. They didn't rob you, but they certainly didn't give you what you were paying for. But let's go to the third now. The third is fair exchange. You bring your car to the car wash. You give them the keys. They said come back in 20 minutes. You come back. Car is beautiful. It's clean, vacuumed, no fingerprints. Everything just looks really nice. And they say, Chad, thank you so much. You walk away. You say, wow, that was good service. That's fair exchange. But this is where it changes. This is an abundance mindset. I want to give you a real example of an abundance mindset. You give the car to the person at the car wash, and they say to you, if you go over a little bit forward, we have a whole area for snacks, coffees, cappuccinos. Feel free to take whatever you like. Give us 20 minutes. 20 minutes, we'll have your car done for you. You come back in 20 minutes, you pay the same $20. And they come back and they say, Chad, we recognize as we were cleaning your car that your tires were off. The air was not equal, so we just equaled it out to 34 pounds per square inch across all your tires. And by the way, as our attendants were cleaning the car, they found a $20 bill on the side of your seat. So here's your $20 bill. Oh, and lastly, the next time you come, here's a 20% off coupon. And the reason is that we know that on the strip, you could have chose any car wash and you chose us. So we just want to thank you for being our client, our customer. My friend, that is exchange in abundance. And that is the difference between scarcity mindset and abundance mindset. You see, scarcity is never enough. Abundance is always more than enough. Abundance says they're happy to share what they know. I'm happy to share with you what I know. And the reason why I'm happy to share with you what I know is I'm hoping that the stuff that I share with you impacts you so that you share with others so that their lives get better, their businesses get better, their leadership gets better. Where a scarcity mindset is stingy. They don't want to share information. They say, well, if I share, well, then they're going to know my information. The truth of it is that there are things in business that you have to be careful with on what you share. But a lot of the times we take a scarcity mindset into areas that doesn't need to be scarce. You know, an abundance mindset builds rapport, connects with people, cares about people. A scarcity mindset is suspicious by nature. What's their intentions? Why are they doing this? I don't understand. Why are they so nice? How about Abundance welcomes competitors. Scarcity resents them. You know, one of the things that I love about competitors, I see this in my community. Danielle and I, years ago, we started a leadership coaching company focusing on leadership that we're talking about today. And I see now people building masterminds. I see people building companies that are doing things. There was not a person when we were doing it. That's phenomenal. You want to know why? It elevates our game and it elevates their game. And it makes it better for our entire community, because if they're growing and I'm growing and everyone's growing, that means our community is growing. And the truth of it is this, that's where then the person who brings the greatest value to the marketplace wins. So it's not a bad thing for clients. It's a great thing for clients. And it just forces all of us to get better. They think big. Abundance mindsets think big. Scarcity mindsets think smaller. Abundance mindsets are optimistic. Scarcity is pessimistic. And this is the last one. Abundance mindsets are thankful and confident. They're thankful. They're grateful for what they have. I didn't have that many years ago. Many years ago, I would always compare. What are they doing? Why do they have that? And I realized that comparison is not a healthy thing. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to look at what our competitors are doing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we want to observe what our competitors are doing. We want to learn from them, because they're very smart people out there. But we don't want to be so consumed. I was consumed in the earlier part of my career. I mean, I even told my wife at one point, I understand their business model better than they understand their business model, because I would study their models. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. I was so consumed on their model that I didn't even put the attention on my model. But something happened and I moved and I started shifting from scarcity to abundance. And I'll just share this, and then Jenny will open up some questions. I'll share this, that in the world that we're living in right now, organizations that give more than they take are going to thrive. When they give more to their customer, when they give more to the team, when they develop their team members. And organizations that are trying to figure out, how do I give as little as possible to everyone? They're gonna shrivel up and die, because we're living in a world now that everything's changing. The last 4 years, we've had more change than I've ever seen in the last 40 years. So the greatest way that we're going to be able to help our organizations succeed, to help our community succeed, is figuring out how to have an abundance mindset where we give more than we take. And I'll tell you this, I never want to be in that spot at some point where with our customers or our clients, I'm saying, wow, I took more than I gave. I don't want to be in that car wash example of partial exchange or criminal exchange. I don't want to be there, because you want to know what? That's a terrible place to be, because you're living out of exchange with people. Choose to give more than you take. Choose to make your purpose bigger than your problem. And what'll happen is you'll show up and you'll be a better version of yourself, and you'll be a greater leader. And one of the things I'll just say is this. I heard John Maxwell say this, and it really impacted me. He said this, he says, we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. Just let that sit with you for a minute. We teach what we know, and we reproduce who we are. Let's be leaders that reproduce amazing abundance mindsets in others. Let's help them awaken their potential. Let's help them do things that they didn't think was possible. And my friend, you'll be an adder and a multiplier in people's lives. So I hope this was valuable. We're gonna open it up for Q&A and spend some time just answering some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chad. So I am going to drop the link for your survey if you want to talk about that really quick while people write their questions.
Yeah,
Look for that
I
Q&A
actually bring that back
box.
up.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would be great.
Thank you. And we're Jenny, like she just mentioned, is putting a link in the chat box. We'd ask you to complete it. It just helps us understand what was shared today, how valuable it was to you. And for those of you that are on for your first time, when you put your information in, our team will send you the first chapter of the book, which is Good Intentions versus Intentionally Good. We'll give you the first chapter complimentary. So just want to thank you. And just so you know, these are the questions that are on that survey. So looking forward to the Q&A. Let's jump into some Q&A.
All right. So someone talked about how some types of profits come with what's referred to as karmic debt. And so just agreeing with, the abundance mindset and such that you've been discussing today. So this question is a really good one, Chad. It's simple, but oh so hard to actually do. How do you find your purpose?
Wow, 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 wow. That's a mic drop. That's a good question. So I'm going to give it to you through two lenses, okay? First lens is I'm going to give it through my faith lens because I can answer it only through that lens. I'd be lying to you if I didn't, but I'll also answer it through a non-faith lens. So I'm going to answer both. For me, I find my purpose because I'm built in God's image, so everything that I do should always add to people's lives, not take from their lives. So that's the first thing is I should add into people's lives when I walk into their life, not take from them. That's the first. And the second part of it is that your purpose will always be tied to the thing that you're good at and passionate about. So I'll give you an example. I like music, but that would never be my purpose because I'm not good at it. So, and I'm passionate, but not as passionate as other people. So you'll find that your purpose will be tied to your giftings and callings. So I would say that I'm going to talk about it purely from a non-faith perspective for a moment. That look at the things that you have found tremendous enjoyment in doing. That's the first thing that you can do. If you look at the things that you found enjoyment in doing, that's probably something that could be part of your purpose. Now, the second part of it is if you enjoy doing it, but you're not good at it, that's not your purpose. That's known as a hobby. That's a very powerful statement that is a hobby. I have a hobby of playing golf. I like it a little bit. I'm not good at it. I have a hobby of, playing music or listening to music. I like listening to it, but I certainly can't sing. You could ask my wife. She says it sounds like cats. She's like, please stop singing, right? But your purpose will be tied to your passion and competency. And one of the things that you'll find is that you'll naturally gravitate to organizations that are similar to what your purpose is. So I'll give you an example. When we're out, I have a lot of leaders that want to make impact in other leaders' lives, and they know that that's their purpose because my message and our message resonates with them and it draws them in. So look at the organizations that you like volunteering for. Look at the types of organizations that you like working for. Look at the type of organization that you've built if you're an owner of a company. And you'll start seeing that, wow, there's some themes here. Now that can start looking at like, wow, that may be my purpose to help impact that area. Just something to think about, but it's not, I don't want this to sound easy because it's not easy. But if you go on that journey of finding your purpose, I'm telling you, Danielle and my wife and I built all of our organizations wrapped around our purpose. That's it. Every organization we have has a It's wrapped around our purpose of making and adding value to people, making a difference in their lives, and helping them become greater at whatever their purpose is, not our purpose.
So Chad, I'd love to have you kind of connect this with something that you've spoken about in a past session where you talked about, instead of selling to people, help people. And sometimes when, we talk about purpose-driven type of things that people want to do in their lives, that question of, okay, but can I get paid for it? Is it okay to get paid for it? Is there? And so I'd love to have you kind of connect up, this idea of the purpose and the payment that comes with it.
I'm gonna thank you, Jenny, because I think that's a very powerful question for the audience to kind of hear through. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen for a moment. Let me just stop sharing. Hold on. Okay. So many people, you probably have heard this book, Good to Great. Have you heard that, Jenny? It's by Jim Collins.
I think I may have heard of it. I have not read it though.
Okay. So Good to Great is a book written by Jim Collins. It sold millions of copies. And what he did is he looked at, and I'm going to share it from a scientific financial perspective, and then I'll dovetail your question. So in the book, he talks about how companies that have a great dynamic leader are typically more profitable than companies that are just going based off of profit alone. So what he did is he compared 11 companies to the sectors that they were in. So I'll give you an example. Let's say he was comparing a technology company. Well, he compared a good to great company that had dynamic leader compared to the industry sector of technology, and what was the growth in the S&P, the Standard & Poor's 500, over that same 10-year period of time. Now, what's interesting about that study is that he found that the S&P brought in the average S&P in the different sectors, I don't remember the exact number, but let's say it was 120% growth over a 10-year period of time. And what he found with the good to great companies, they were about 330% growth over the same 10-year period of time. So they had about a 3 times or a 300% growth. And I'm talking about financial growth from the S&P to the good to great companies, okay? But there was another book that came out called Firms of Endearment, okay? What they did is they analyzed the same data points, the S&P growth and the good to great companies, which were publicly traded companies, but then they took into it something that we've been talking about, purpose, vision, values, right? And building company that was based on that. And what they found in a 10-year period of time was those companies were about 1,020% growth compared to the S&P's 120 growth. So it was like almost 10 times the growth, and it was 3 times the growth of the good to great companies. So when you think about that, right, what that study showed was that companies that led with purpose, vision, and values, I'm really simplifying it, but companies that led with purpose, vision, and values were 3 times more successful than good to great companies and 10 times more successful than the S&P. That was over a 10-year period of time. You want to know what happened when they went 15 years? They went back and they did a study that they added 5 more years to the study because they wanted to see what happened to the companies after the 10 years. So they added another 5 years to the study. The companies wound up being 1,600% growth with only 5 more years. And some of the S&P companies were no longer even in business, and many of the good to great companies went out of business. But almost all of the firms, they called them firms of endearment companies, were still around thriving because they were leading on purpose, vision, and values. So coming back to it, or your question, most organizations don't understand that over a long period of time, not over a year or two. If you're playing the year or two game, well, then profit is the only way to go. But if you're playing a 15 to 30 year game, those studies showed that companies that led with purpose, vision, and values were 10 to 16 times more successful financially. So living values, leading with purpose and vision, using people's giftedness, it shows that it's more profitable. But you can't play a short game. You got to play a long game. So I hope that answered some of your question.
Yes. And what suggestions do you have as a follow-up for small business owners? We have a lot of people who may have, it's just themselves in their business, or maybe themselves, a few employees. So when you're doing things on a small scale like that, how then do you work toward implementing that mission, vision, values? I mean, we hear about that a lot with bigger corporations and such, but on the small scale, how do you really implement that?
Well, I would say this, Jenny, on a smaller scale, it's even more needed. So think of this for a moment. On a large scale, these companies, these big companies have billions of dollars, some hundreds of millions of dollars on their balance sheets. So they may have the ability, if they make some bad decisions, they may have the ability to withstand it because they have a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. As a small business, our every decision we make has to lead towards our purpose and our vision, because you don't have that level of resources that these bigger institutions have. So our decision making has to be more intentional, because we don't have the ability to make as many bad decisions and still have the runway. So I would say that for companies that are smaller companies, listen, we're a smaller company. We're going to 10x over the next 5 years, but we're still a small company. We have to, every decision we make has to line up with our purpose, our vision, and our values. So what happens is, when we start doing that, it makes it easier to make decisions, because you start moving away from, does that decision line up with does that decision help us accomplish our purpose? No. Does that group, now I'll tell you one of the things that I see happen a lot, networking groups. I see that a lot, Jenny, that people are involved in networking groups, and they're great. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that they're not, but does that networking group help you get closer to your purpose, your vision, and your values, right? Because sometimes you outgrow the group. Sometimes the group outgrows you. That's the question. As a small business owner, we need to be making sure that every decision we make brings us closer to that purpose, vision, and values, and that we're using people's strengths to get there on our team, because we don't have as much wiggle room. We don't have billions of dollars sitting in the bank account that if we don't make a good decision, well, then who cares? Because we have all these resources sitting on the side. We'll offer more shares to the marketplace. We don't have that ability as a small business. But what we do have is we have the ability to be more intentional and move quicker than bigger enterprises. And that is the benefit of a small business. I'll give you just an analogy, Jenny. When you're on a cruise liner, you can't just choose to change and just be like, oh, we're just going to change course right now. You have to gradually change course. A lot of these big companies can't go to market quickly because they have to get all these approvals. Approval from division, and approval from the board, approval from the executive committee, approval from. As a small business owner, you can make a quick decision. You say, hey, we want to do this? Yeah, let's do it. And we can move. That gives us the ability to be a small little dinky boat or a yacht, where we can make a quick turn and move in a different direction quickly, where bigger institutions can't. That's what we need to be looking at in businesses, is saying, how can we make decisions? How do they align up with our business model alignment or our purpose and vision? And then how do we do it quicker than some of our bigger competitors, because it's going to take them longer to get to market?
Fantastic. So we have a question. Do you ever offer any webinars in Spanish or resources in other languages?
So we don't, but we haven't, but we are planning to, because we've discussed about having it being interpreted turned into different languages. So I would say yes, we will, but currently, as of today, we don't. But that doesn't mean with the use of AI, we can't turn that around in a week.
Yes,
If it's the
speaking
right
of quick
opportunity, we'll
changes.
figure it out.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a bit about mindset, the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset. So
Yep.
when you're a small business owner, how do you balance the abundant mindset with the resources that you have?
Yeah, I shared that in last video too, Jenny, a little bit. So I'd encourage whoever asked that to go back to the one that we did last week. But the key to that is you think big and start small. That is the key to it. You don't think small and start small. You think big and start small. Meaning you keep your eye focused on where you want to go in 20 years. 30 years, 10 years, 15 years. But the reality of it is you're not there. I'm a $1 billion company in my mind. I'm not a $1 billion company in reality yet. So what that means is that I have to start where I'm at. But I have to keep my eye on the focus of where I'm going to be. So every decision, I'll give you an example. Like right now in our company, we're building out a whole shared service model. When it doesn't make sense to build out a shared service model with the size company we are. But I'm not making decisions based on being small, the size that we are today. I'm making decisions on where we're going to be in 10 years. So I'm thinking big, but I'm starting small. And that's the key to balancing the reality of it. Is a lot of people, because they don't think big, they start small and they think small. So they stay small. I'm not saying that. You can start small, but you got to think bigger. If you have a vision that you're going to franchise, or you have a vision that your company is going to be in all the different 5 boroughs, or you have a vision that it'll be all throughout New York State, that doesn't happen overnight. But keep that vision. Maybe that's a 20-year vision. But start small and start building every decision towards that vision. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is also a good question. So how do you address a situation where you have differences in mindset? So for instance, this person is a real estate investor, very good at it, abundance mindset there, but has a spouse who is risk averse. And so there's a mismatch there on where their mindsets are at right now.
Yeah. So I would say this first is I will say this. I'm a big advocate for marriage. So I would say make sure that your marriage is protected, because everything else will fall apart if it's not. But outside of that, this is the thing is maybe having a conversation around what level of risk she's willing to allow you to make decisions based on without having to go to her to ask her. So I'll give you an example. If she's okay with a $10 million real estate project, but she's not okay with a $50 million real estate project, well then find out the parameters around that. And if you're going to stay in the $10 million range, then you don't have to ask. Or if it's $1 million and 10 million, I'm just throwing numbers out there. Or if it's 100,000 and $1 million, the numbers are irrelevant. Find out what number she's comfortable with, so that you can make decisions within that. But maybe also bring her into the conversation, because maybe the more comfortable she gets with why you're doing what you're doing. Because I'll tell you this. My wife Danielle is an entrepreneur. She'll take more risk than I will. I'm not as risk taker. But I will tell you this, I'm a calculated risk taker. So I calculate what is the upside, what's the probability, what's the downside, what's the probability. And when I'm comfortable with that, I'm all in. So maybe your wife, if she can understand a little bit more about the probability of the upside, the probability of the downside, because Danielle can bring some ideas to me. Her and I have to make decisions together, and we have to agree on it. But if it's something that is so risky that I don't see the probability, we're going to have a conversation about it and say, I don't see that as a real risk. I see that as a very big risk because based on probability. But then there's other things, I'm like, this is not even a risk. This is a no-brainer. So having those conversations about probability of upside, probability of downside, you know, Danielle will take more risk than I will, but I'll do weighted risk adjustment. I'm looking at probability and what is the market looking at, and she'll look at the market, but she'll just be more comfortable taking a bigger risk than I am, just for the purpose of a venture, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And as a follow-up to that, same vein, how do you work on developing the mentality? And, you know, when a business owner begins a business, they have a vision for it. And when other people become part of that, how do you work as a team on making that a shared vision, a shared mentality, so that it's not, you know, it grows from the person to the organization? What are your tips for the people on the call today in that area?
One of the things that we talk about, Jenny, is this method called SCALE, SCALE. And what it is the 5 things that an organization needs to thrive based on millions of leaders that were surveyed over 40 years. And the first thing is the S is share common vision. An organization needs to have a shared common vision. So as an example, if you have a clear shared common vision, the marketing supports that, the operations supports that, the finances support that. But if you don't have a shared common vision, you're competing against each other. And when you're competing, that is known as division. It's dividing the vision. So a shared common vision is key, but the C is challenge the process. And challenge the process is, how do we make the systems better so that we get closer to that purpose and vision faster? The A is always speak to the heart, meaning know that we got to talk truth to people, but we got to care about them too. And sometimes in a small business, that's a very tough thing, because when you talk truth to them, they think that you may be hurting them because you're attacking them, when you're really sharing the reality of what's happening, right? And the L is lead by example, model it. And the last, the E, is empower decision-making and action. A lot of small businesses, and I know because I've been there, their hands are involved in every little aspect of it. So you got to empower people, hire good people and empower them. And then what'll happen is you'll wind up getting better, you'll get better results. I'm seeing it now in our own businesses, but you got to hire competent people.
Thank you. And the person who had asked the question about the mentality, the scarcity and abundance mentality with their spouse, said, awesome answer. Thank you.
I'm trying my best, and I'm being as dead honest as I could, as brutally honest as I could be.
Very much appreciated. Well, we are at time for today, and so we will wrap up. I want to remind everyone that we do not have a session next week, and we will resume on Wednesday, the 29th, May 29th at noon. You'll receive some reminders about that coming up.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Chad. Thank you everyone for attending and asking questions, being involved in this leadership process that we are going through with Chad. And so I hope that you will have a fantastic rest of your day. Next week, again, enjoy your week, and then be back here with us on the 29th.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Jenny. Thank you so much for all that you guys do
Likewise.
for the small business community.
Likewise.
All
Goodbye,
right, be
everyone.
well. Bye-bye.